Now, hybrids might not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're a skeptic, you might be surprised at the level of variety on offer in terms of the aesthetics, but also the level of performance and consistency you get versus a long or a utility iron. So if you are looking to upgrade, make sure you watch this video right to the end, because I've tested 12 of the latest hybrids from all the leading manufacturers here at the stunning JCB Golf and Country Club to really put them through their paces, see which hybrids excel in certain areas and where they might fall down in others, to really guide your buying decision and help you pick the best hybrid for your game. So without further ado, let's dive into the different categories, starting with the looks. So in terms of how a hybrid looks behind the ball, there are kind of three different types depending on the type of technique that you apply to your hybrid shots. You've got your very compact hybrids like this Callaway Apex Pro, designed for golfers who are quite steep into the ball. They attack the ball like they would their irons. So that's short, it's shorter front to back. It's got kind of more of a toe heavy shape, and there's a couple of examples, this one and also the Titleist TSI3, that really tick those boxes. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got some more fairway wood-like hybrid designs. So Titleist TSI2, Honma GS, Wilson Staff D9, very wide from front to back, designed for golfers who have a slightly shallower attack into the ball, but also want higher launch. So for those shots hit mostly off the deck into greens, you get a bit more stopping power that way, and also a little bit more forgiveness. So for me, out of the options in this test, the Titleist TSI2 was my favourite looking hybrid in terms of that more fairway wood style design. And then kind of in between those two, you've got some options that are always trying to do both jobs. So my favourite example of the ones that we've got on test here was the Mizuno CLK. So I love this matte grey finish on the top, very easy to align with those white score lines, and I think just sets up really, really nicely behind the ball. And actually, this is probably one of my favourite looking hybrids on test. Other models that would suit this type of similar shape and profile would be the Cobra Rad Speed and maybe the Ping G425 Max, was slightly larger. But of all the hybrids, I think this Mizuno CLK is my favourite looking hybrid of 2021. So now we're going to touch on the feel of the hybrids, and I have to say picking a winner in this category really would be splitting hairs, because all of these hybrids felt really, really good. But if I was pushed for kind of my top three in terms of the feel of the hybrids and how hot they come off the face, these are the ones I'd go for: the Cobra Rad Speed, the Ping G425 and the TaylorMade Sim 2 Rescue. So the Cobra Rad Speed definitely came off really, really hot, and noticeably hitting shots to a flag about 225 yards away. This was carrying a little bit further than the others, I noticed. Ping G425 feels very, very solid and very consistent across probably a wider area than most of the hybrids that you're likely to test this year. So very forgiving on those off-centre hits, and that's really helpful for high handicappers who are quite inconsistent. And then the last one was the TaylorMade Sim 2, which is one of the more compact hybrids on test, but you don't lose out on that firepower. I felt like it was surprisingly hot from a wider area given that slightly smaller profile. So those are the three that really stood out for feel, but really, regardless of which model you choose this year, they're all going to feel pretty good. Okay, so arguably the most important category: how do these hybrids perform when we tested them at Foresight Sports HQ on the GC Quad launch monitor? Now, worth pointing out, we tested them all in the stock shafts, and most of them were in 19 degrees, but there were some discrepancies in the loft, which will flash up with the data graphic on the screen now, which provides all the relevant data information for all the testing that we did with Titleist Pro V1X golf balls. And you'll notice actually that all the hybrids performed pretty similar across the board. I'll call out some of the key kind of points that I noticed. The first being that the fastest average ball speed was achieved with the Cobra Rad Speed. The highest launching hybrids were the Strixon ZX and the Ping G425, just over 14.5 degrees. The highest spinning, like we saw with the fairway wood test actually, was the Wilson Staff D9, spinning at over 4,000 RPM, which is quite a lot more than the others. Lowest spinning being Callaway Apex, which I was quite surprised about, spinning at under 2,800 RPM. Longest average carry, as you'd expect, given it had the fastest ball speed, was the Cobra Rad Speed, just over 220 yards, along with the Callaway Apex and the TaylorMade Sim 2 Max and the Titleist TSI2 were just 1 yard behind. So pretty consistent distances really across those top performers. Obviously, we're testing here on the range. There's a red flag down there at 225 yards, which is perfect to hit shots to here on the range at JCB, off the deck, off the grass. And I think the performance that I experienced and the ball flight that I experienced with these hybrids kind of backed up what we saw with the data, is that there were a couple of models that really stood out to me. The first being the Cobra Rad Speed. I hit some shots with this club that definitely carried further than most of the hybrids on test. So the shaft is slightly longer than the others, and that will contribute to that extra distance. But if you are looking for a hybrid that's forgiving, versatile and long, the Cobra Rad Speed definitely right up there. Titleist TSI2, just very, very user friendly. It's got a big profile, it's very high launching, gives you a nice high stable ball flight, very consistent. So I really enjoyed that one. It was lofted slightly down 18 degrees, that one, so hence going a little bit further than the others. And one model I want to talk about as well is the Honma GS. Now, I didn't test this at Foresight Sports HQ because we didn't have the sample available to us at the time. So we haven't got any drivable data for this club, but testing it here on the range to that pin down there, it was more than comparable with the other models that we tested. So in terms of distance and consistency, it was very, very impressive. You know, looking at where it was carrying, it looked like it was carrying similar to the Titleist TSI2, so around that 220 mark. So very impressive model from Honma actually. If you're looking for distance and consistency, I really enjoyed that. Slightly stronger in loft, 18 degrees, but I wasn't losing out on ball flight. That was the key takeaway I'd get from this club. So all in all, very consistent performance across the board. I'd say the ones that really stood out to me were the Cobra Rad Speed, Titleist TSI2 and the TaylorMade Sim 2. That was also surprisingly consistent for what was a slightly more compact shape. So hopefully the data screen that will give you a steer as to what type of performance you're looking for, then you can pick the one that matches up with that. There were some differences there, but generally they'll perform pretty well. So a hybrid needs to hit lots of different shots out on the golf course from different situations, so it pays to have one that can pull those off as much as possible. And there were a few models that really stood out for me in terms of able to hit those different shots. We tested obviously indoors, on the range, and also out the rough here at JCB, quite thick, so it was interesting to see how some of these models got through that rough or didn't, as the case may be. And there were quite a lot of standout performers really in this category. So Cobra Rad Speed, we talked about in the Fairwoods video, it's got those rails on the sole, which definitely helps get the ball out of those slightly cuppy lies, and also worked really well from the rough. The other models I've got here, these are all adjustable for loft, which I think definitely helps adapting the spec of the club and the ball flight for different conditions, maybe different courses. Yes, if you maybe come to a course where you're going to want to use it off the tee, you might want to loft it down slightly. So having that option really enhances the versatility. So TaylorMade Sim 2, Mizuno CLK, Titleist TSI3 and the Ping G425 with those adjustable hosels really help that. The Callaway Apex also has that adjustable hosel feature. So that's definitely something to consider if you want to enhance the longevity of your hybrid as well. Making swing changes, you can adjust the loft to suit your new swing. Titleist TSI3 is also worth a mention because it has movable weight here on the sole, so you can alter the ball flight if you've got a shot pattern that you want to negate or you want to take out one side of the golf course. The 3 different weight positions, heel and toe and the middle, you can adjust the shot shape slightly. So that's really, really impressive in terms of versatility. And while it might lack off-centre forgiveness slightly because that's smaller profile versus the others, I still think the versatility is really, really high. So I'm not going to pick a winner in this category. I'm just going to mention the models that I think work really well from different situations. I think out of the rough, it was the Ping G425. Even though it's got quite a wide sole, it's really, really flat, so it got through the rough really quickly. TaylorMade Sim 2 Rescue also very impressive out of the rough. So when thinking about versatility, definitely consider having one with an adjustable hosel. Definitely think about that sole design, how it's going to get through the ground in different lies, different conditions. But for me, I'm not going to pick a winner, but there were some standout performers here that I think should help you pull off different shots from different situations out on the course. So in terms of the value on offer, there were 2 models that really stood out to me this year, the Mizuno CLK and the Cobra Rad Speed. Mizuno CLK comes in at £199, which is slightly less expensive than most of the other hybrids on test. I'll flash up all the prices on the screen now to give you a comparison, but yeah, I really like the look of this hybrid. It feels really good as well, really, really solid on those off-centre hits, and it does have that adjustable hosel, so you can adapt it to different conditions. So I think for just under £200, given how it looks and how it performs, that's a really good option. But the Rad Speed arguably just pips it because it does come in £10 cheaper. While it's not adjustable for loft, it gave me the most amount of distance, so it was the longest hybrid on test for me, and it's got those sole rails on the bottom to help pick the ball up from slightly iffy lies. So that's my standout winner for the value category, Cobra Rad Speed. Okay, so on to the overall verdict, and it's worth pointing out at this stage that I think there's a golfer out there for every hybrid that we tested in this video, but the one I would put in my bag based on all the testing that we've done indoors, outdoors, out of the rough would be the Titleist TSI2. It just gave me the best combination of distance. Yes, it's very long, as we saw from the data, but it's also very, very consistent. And as a golfer that hits this club out on the course, definitely mostly off the deck, I wouldn't use it off the tee. Even on par threes, I wouldn't peg it up. It just got the ball up in the air really, really cleanly from the deck, and it was very, very forgiving on those off-centre hits. And that high launch definitely gives me a bit more stopping power as well. So Titleist TSI2, along with that adjustable hosel, gives me the versatility and the performance that I'm looking for. That might be different for you. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different performance characteristics across the range that would suit different golfers. But for me personally, it's the Titleist TSI2 that wins Best Hybrid of 2021, even though the Mizuno CLK definitely pushed it all the way. But that's all for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do click the like button if you like what you're watching. Subscribe to the Golf Monthly YouTube channel and comment on the video. Tell me which of the models we tested here today are you most excited to try, and which one has potentially earned a spot in your bag. I'd love to hear from you. But from JCB Golf and Country Club, it's goodbye from me. I'll see you next time.